She stole $200, $0 from our joint account to fund her affair with my best friend. Then, after I caught her, she had the audacity to sue me for half our house's value, $350, claiming she deserves it all because of her emotional distress. I never thought I'd be the kind of guy to find out my wife was screwing around behind my back, especially not in such a brutal, cold way. It all started with little things: her changing her phone password, sneaking off to work late more often, the way she'd get defensive when I asked about her whereabouts. But I guess I was blind for a while, convincing myself that some of her behavior was just stress or her way of dealing with life. Then, one night, I stumbled across something that knocked the wind out of me completely. I was checking our joint bank account because I wanted to see how we were doing financially. Nothing unusual, just routine. I noticed a huge withdrawal, $200, $0 gone from our savings in just a few days. I thought maybe it was some investment or a big purchase, but when I looked closer, I saw that it was transferred to an account I didn't recognize. That was strange enough, but what made my stomach drop was the note attached. For my secret life. I didn't understand at first. I thought maybe I was seeing things or maybe I was paranoid. But then I looked further and there were more clues. Her phone suddenly had a bunch of new contacts, mostly under fake names, and her schedule was packed with secret meetings. I even found a hotel reservation in her name, paid for in cash, for a night I knew she was supposed to be at her sister. That's when I started to piece it all together. I decided to dig deeper. I installed a discreet app on her phone, something to monitor her texts and calls. It wasn't long before I found what I feared: explicit messages, plans to meet up with her supposed friend who turned out to be my best friend, Mark. The things she said about me, about how she couldn't wait to get away, to be free from this boring marriage, and the way she described their sex like it was some sort of wild, forbidden thing, it was sickening. I couldn't believe it. I'd always thought we had a decent life, a good marriage, despite some minor disagreements. I never suspected she'd cheat on me with Mark, my best friend, someone I trusted implicitly. It felt like a punch to the gut, like everything I believed about our life was a lie. I started to feel angry, then numb, then just devastated. I had no idea how to process the betrayal. All I knew was that I couldn't let this go, not without confronting her, not without knowing the full extent of her lies. That night I waited until she came home from her supposed girls' night out. She was dressed up, looking smug, like she knew she'd gotten away with something. I was shaking, my mind racing. I told her I knew everything. Her face twisted into a sneer and she started to lie about how she was just talking to her sister, how the money was an investment, how I was imagining things. But I had proof. I played the messages on my phone, showed her the bank transfer receipts. Her face went pale, then red, then she started crying, trying to deny everything, claiming I was paranoid, that I was overreacting. I felt a mixture of rage and heartbreak. How could she do this to me, to us? She had stolen our money, 200, funded her affair, and now she was trying to gaslight me, make me doubt myself. I looked at her, this woman I'd loved and trusted for years, and saw nothing but a liar and a cheat. I realized I'd been living in a fantasy, and now I had to face the brutal truth. This wasn't just about her cheating. It was about the betrayal of everything we'd built together. I knew I had to think carefully. I couldn't just kick her out and forget about the money or the house. She was trying to claim emotional distress and take half of everything, including the house worth $350, $0. I felt like I was in a nightmare, caught between heartbreak and a burning desire for justice. I couldn't let her get away with it, not without a fight. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. My mind kept replaying her lies, the way she looked at me with that fake innocence, her voice trembling when she tried to deny everything. I knew I had to act fast. The money was gone, the trust was shattered, and I could see her starting to spin her web of excuses. But I wasn't going to let her manipulate me into believing her bullshit. I had the evidence, and I was determined to use it. The first step was to get legal advice. I found a lawyer who specialized in family law and financial disputes. Sitting in his office, I laid everything out: the bank transfers, her secret meetings, the texts, her attempts to deny it all. The lawyer looked at me with a serious expression and said, "You need to document everything. Keep records of all communications, transactions, and any evidence of her behavior, and be prepared for her to try to claim emotional distress to get half the house or more." In the meantime, I started to think about her motives. She had always been a bit of a bitch, demanding, manipulative, quick to lie when it suited her. But this was next level, funding her affair with Mark, stealing our savings. It was pure greed, and I was furious. I also learned that she had been planning to sue me for half of our house, claiming emotional distress from the betrayal. That was the last straw. I couldn't let her walk away with everything after what she'd done. I decided I needed to turn the tables. I couldn't just sit back and let her accuse me or try to take everything I worked for. I started to gather my own evidence, screenshots of her texts, bank statements, photos of her hotel reservations, even security camera footage from the house that showed her coming and going at odd hours. I wanted to be ready for whatever legal battle was coming. The more I dug, the more I realized how deeply she'd lied and manipulated. One day I confronted her again, this time with a cold, calculated tone. I told her I knew about the money, about Mark, everything. I warned her that I had all the proof and that I was prepared to fight for my rights and for what was ours. Her face twisted into a sneer and she spat back, "You're just jealous. You're overreacting. This is all just your paranoia. You're going to ruin us with your accusations." But I wasn't about to be swayed by her crocodile tears or her bullshit stories anymore. I knew what she was capable of, and I was ready to fight. I also learned that she had a backup plan. She was trying to get her hands on the house, claiming she was emotionally distressed from discovering her affair. She argued she deserved it all, half the house, because she was suffering. I knew her game. I had to prepare for the legal fight, and I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way into my life or my assets. The betrayal was one thing, but the idea of her walking away with the house after everything made me sick. I started to think about what I really wanted. Part of me still loved her, but that love was buried under layers of anger and betrayal. I couldn't stay with someone who would do this to me, to us. I knew I'd have to get a divorce, fight her in court, and probably face a long, ugly battle, but I was determined. I couldn't let her get away with it, not after all she'd done. I wanted justice, and I wanted her to pay for the pain she caused. My mind was racing with plans, how to prove her lies, how to protect myself. Legally, how to get back what she stole. The $200, $0, the house, my dignity. I knew this was only the beginning. I had a long road ahead, but I was ready to walk it, because I wasn't going to let her ruin me, not without a fight. Over the next few weeks, I threw myself into gathering evidence and planning my next steps. It was like I was in a war, only I wasn't sure if I'd come out the winner or if I was just digging my own grave. But I knew I couldn't let her get away with it, especially after discovering her plans to sue me for half the house, claiming emotional distress. That was the tipping point. I had to fight back hard. I started by hearing a private investigator. I needed to confirm everything, her meetings, her movements, the hotel stays. It was expensive, but I couldn't take any chances. The PI came back with footage of her sneaking out at night, meeting Mark at a hotel, and even visiting a few shady places I never knew she'd been to. Seeing her in those videos, I felt a mix of disgust and heartbreak. How had I missed all of this? How could I have trusted her? The woman I loved was turning into a stranger, a liar, a cheat. Meanwhile, I also contacted a divorce lawyer who specialized in high-conflict cases. We drew up a plan. I wanted to protect my assets, especially the house, which I worked so hard to pay off. I knew she'd try to claim she deserved more because of her emotional distress, but I had a mountain of evidence showing her infidelity, financial theft, and lies. The lawyer told me that her attempt to sue for half the house was a common tactic. She was trying to leverage her distress to get a bigger cut. I wasn't falling for it. Then came the financial part. I contacted my bank and froze the joint account. I also hired an accountant to review all our joint finances. The $200, $0 she stole, I found out she transferred most of it to an offshore account, probably expecting to hide it. I also discovered she'd taken out a large credit card in my name, without my knowledge, using some of the stolen money. Every new discovery made my blood boil. This wasn't just cheating, it was theft, manipulation, and outright betrayal. I decided to confront her again, this time more prepared. I called her at work and told her I knew everything. I laid out all the evidence, told her I had witnesses, security footage, bank records, everything. Her reaction was priceless. She tried to deny everything, but I cut her off. I told her I was done playing her games. I warned her that I was going to fight her in court, and I would do everything to protect what was legally mine. I told her she could try to sue me, but I would countersue for the stolen money and for damages caused by her lies and infidelity. She started crying, trying to guilt-trip me, claiming she was suffering and that I was ruining her life. She said she only did it because she was miserable, that Mark was her true happiness, and that she deserved the house because she'd been through so much emotional pain. I just shook my head. I knew her game now. She was a master manipulator, but I wasn't going to be her pawn anymore. I was done with her lies. In the meantime, I also reached out to Mark, my best friend, who was now the biggest part of this mess. I told him straight up that I knew about their affair and that I had proof. I told him I was hurt, angry, and that I never wanted to see his face again if he didn't own up to what he did. Surprisingly, he admitted everything, apologized, and said he was just caught up in the moment. That didn't matter anymore. What mattered was that I had all the proof I needed to take her to court. I realized I was in a war for my life, my home, and my dignity. The emotional fallout was brutal. I felt betrayed, humiliated, and furious. But at the same time, I knew I had to stay strong. I couldn't let her manipulate me into giving her everything she wanted. I had to stand my ground, fight for what was rightfully mine, and finally put an end to this nightmare. The hardest part was facing the realization that the woman I loved had become a completely different person, selfish, manipulative, and greedy. She had lied about everything, including her feelings, her fidelity, her intentions. I kept asking myself how I missed all the signs, how I was so blind to her true nature. But I knew now more than ever that I had to protect myself, my future, and the little dignity I still had left. This was only the beginning of the legal battle, but I was ready for it. I was done being a victim. The legal process moved faster than I expected, probably because I had all the evidence stacked against her. My lawyer filed the necessary paperwork to contest her claim on the house and to recover the stolen money. I made it clear from the beginning. I wasn't just fighting for my assets, I was fighting for my dignity. Every day, I felt the weight of the betrayal pressing down on me, but I also felt a strange sense of clarity. I wasn't going to let her manipulate her way into my life or my bank account anymore. Meanwhile, she was trying to spin everything. Her friends, her family. She told them I was the one cheating, that I was paranoid and controlling. She claimed I was the one with the emotional issues, that I was ruining her life, that she was the real victim here. But I had her texts, her hotel receipts, the offshore bank statements. I had the proof that she'd stolen from us, that she'd lied, that she'd been unfaithful with Mark. One day I caught her in a lie that really sealed her fate. She told me she was at her sister's house, just relaxing. I decided to check her phone, something I didn't want to do but felt I had to. Sure enough, there were messages from Mark, planning their next rendezvous, talking about how good it felt to be together. That was the last straw. I printed everything, saved all the screenshots. I knew I had her dead to rights. The courtroom showdown came sooner than I thought. My lawyer presented the evidence: bank records, text messages, hotel bookings, security footage. Her lawyer tried to argue emotional distress, but it was laughable. The judge looked at the mountain of proof and saw through her lies. She was ordered to pay back the full amount she stole, 200,000, and to vacate the house. The judge also dismissed her claim to half the property, ruling that her misconduct invalidated her claim. I felt a strange mixture of relief and emptiness. I'd won the legal battle, but the emotional scars ran deep. The woman I'd loved and trusted had betrayed me in the worst way imaginable. I watched her leave the house in tears, her face twisted with anger and shame. Mark was nowhere to be seen, probably hiding, knowing he screwed up. I stayed behind, staring at the empty rooms, trying to process what just happened. In the aftermath, I started to rebuild. I sold the house, paid off the remaining debts, and took some time to reflect. The betrayal had shattered my sense of security, but I realized I was stronger than I thought. I learned that trust is fragile, that some people will lie and steal without a second thought. I also learned that revenge isn't about violence or destruction. Sometimes it's about standing up for yourself, fighting back, and making sure justice is served. I cut ties with her completely. No calls, no messages. I blocked her on social media, removed her from my life. I wanted nothing to do with her anymore. I felt a strange sense of liberation, even if it was tinged with sadness. I was alone, yes, but I was finally free from her grip. The experience taught me to be more cautious, more aware, more guarded. But it also taught me that I could survive anything. Looking back, I realize I should have seen the signs sooner. I ignored the little things, her secretive phone habits, her sudden distance, her financial lies. But now I know, trust must be earned and betrayal can come from the most unexpected places. If there's one thing I want anyone reading this to take away, it's this: never ignore the red flags. Protect yourself, your assets, and your heart, because some people will take everything and still want more. Now I'm trying to move on. It's not easy, and I still have moments where I feel broken, but I'm determined to rebuild my life. I want to find someone who truly values honesty and respect. As for her, I hope she gets what she deserves, whatever that may be. I just wish I hadn't loved her so much before I saw her true face. But I guess that's part of life, learning the hard way. The aftermath of everything was a whirlwind. I thought the worst was over once the court ruling came down, but it wasn't that simple. The legal battle had drained me emotionally and financially. The house was gone, the money returned, but the scars remained. I felt hollow, like I'd lost a part of myself that I'd never get back. For weeks, I stayed alone in an apartment, trying to piece my life back together, wondering how someone I loved could turn into such a complete stranger. One thing I realized early on was how much I had been by her lies and manipulations. I kept asking myself, how did I miss all the signs? I had trusted her for years, and she'd betrayed me in the worst way. I was angry at myself for being so naive, but I also knew I couldn't dwell on the past forever. I had to move forward. During this period of reflection, I started to see how her betrayal had changed me. I was more cautious, more guarded. I didn't trust easily anymore. But I also became determined to rebuild my confidence, to find happiness again, even if it meant starting over from scratch. I threw myself into work, took up new hobbies, and reconnected with friends I'd neglected during the chaos. Slowly, I was rebuilding my sense of self. What really helped was talking to a counselor, not because I was broken, well, maybe a little, but because I needed to process everything. I needed someone to help me understand that my feelings of betrayal, anger, and sadness were normal. The counselor told me that healing is a process, that I shouldn't rush it, and that I should be kind to myself. That advice stuck with me, especially the part about being kind. I had been so hard on myself, blaming myself for everything that went wrong. In time, I met someone new, someone who showed me what trust and honesty really meant. It wasn't easy to open up again, but I learned that vulnerability isn't weakness, it's strength. I realized I deserved someone who valued me, who wouldn't lie or cheat or steal from me. That realization was freeing. I finally started to believe that I could be happy again, even after everything I'd been through. But I also carry the scars of betrayal. Every now and then, I catch myself wondering if she ever truly loved me, or if I was just another mark in her game. I wonder if Mark ever felt guilty, or if he just moved on like I did. Matter. Sometimes I get angry thinking about the time and energy she wasted on her lies. But then I remind myself, what's done is done. I can't change the past, only learn from it. One thing I've come to understand is that revenge isn't about getting even anymore. It's about reclaiming your life, your dignity, and your peace of mind. I fought hard to protect what was mine, and I won. But the real victory is in moving on and knowing I didn't let her destroy me completely. I learned that trust is fragile, and it's something you earn every day. I also learned that sometimes, the biggest act of revenge is simply living well and not letting the betrayal define me. So, for anyone going through something similar, trust your instincts, protect yourself, And don't be afraid to walk away from someone who doesn't deserve your love or your trust. It's painful, but better to be alone than with someone who's only going to hurt you. Life is too short to waste on people who lie and steal. And even if it hurts now, time heals wounds. I know that because I've seen it happen firsthand. I might be, but I'm stronger, wiser, and more ready to face whatever comes next. Looking back, I realized that the whole experience changed me in ways I never expected. I used to believe in the fairy tale idea of love, trusting blindly, thinking that if you loved someone enough, everything would be okay. That illusion was shattered in the worst way possible. But what I gained from this nightmare was a brutal honesty about human nature and a deeper understanding of myself. I learned that strength isn't just about fighting back. It's also about knowing when to walk away and how to rebuild from the rubble. I've come to see that betrayal, as painful as it is, can sometimes be a catalyst for growth. It forced me to confront my vulnerabilities, to question what I truly want from life, and to realize that my worth isn't defined by someone else's lies. I learned to trust my instincts again, to listen to that little voice warning me when something's off. And I learned that no matter how much you love someone, if they're capable of stealing from you, lying and betraying your trust, then they don't deserve a place in your life anymore. Now I focus on the future. I work on myself, physically, emotionally, financially. I've started saving again, building a new life step by step. I've also become more cautious about who I let into my world. Trust is earned, not given. I remind myself every day that I am enough, that I don't need someone who only takes from me and never gives back. The pain still lingers sometimes, but it's less intense. It's a scar, a reminder of what I've survived and what I refuse to let define me. One thing I want others to take away from my story is this: don't ignore the red flags. Don't stay in a situation where you're being lied to or used, no matter how much you love someone. Protect yourself, your assets, and your heart. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well without them, showing that you're stronger than the betrayal, that you're capable of moving on and finding happiness again. That's the real victory. In the end, I've learned that life moves forward, whether you're ready or not. And no matter how dark things seem, there's always a way out, sometimes through the pain, sometimes because of it. I've come to accept that betrayal is a part of life, but it doesn't have to define your future. You can rebuild, you can heal, and you can find happiness again. It takes time, patience, and a lot of courage, but it's worth it. So here's my final piece of advice. Trust yourself, protect your peace, and never settle for less than you deserve. Because at the end of the day, your happiness is what matters most. And if someone betrays you, remember, you have the power to walk away and start over. That's the greatest revenge of all.